step outside the box. Seemingly, you're talking from Mr. Hogan, and your organization basically provides education services to the community. And you were diversified over the years, but if you were strictly a business and you're looking to increase your profit margins, and sometimes you may lack this or that, and really that's the purpose of collaboration, is to bring in those partners who can strengthen your particular project that you're trying to undertake. What has been some of the disadvantages that you all have seen that you may have experienced over the years? There got to be some. There's advantage and disadvantage. So if you speak to the disadvantages.
Controlling egos within bubbling, rising business individuals. I can think of two young ladies that first off, I'm not going to call their names, started off, and they had egos, each one of them, but we let them know when they conduct this SWOT analysis, they would realize that's what she just stated. One of them had a weakness, but that other one had a strength that could be married together and they could be successful. And they are now successful in business, running a successful business, to the tune last year of $385,000 that they made. And because we stay with them and we do their taxes and whatever. The disadvantage, like I just said, is the egos and realizing that that can be failure, but it's not found, that you could have some difficult days coming. So that's why we found out that they needed someone. Mr. Greer, they just needed someone to be there. For the person stepping out for the first time and on their own, they needed someone. So we started to be able to offer that technical assistance, not just to assist you in drawing up a grant, but, excuse me for being personal, I had it so that they could call me up until 11 o'clock at night and just give them some assurance that it's going to be all right, to settle down. And some of them were just worried, you know, when they get started early, they didn't know how somebody come in and bring about some confusion, and they just needed somebody to talk to. But after a while, they got kind of annoying to me because they would call in so regular, you know. So, and my wife said, "What all these women calling you at 11 o'clock at night?" Some of them just wanted to know that you will do what you say. They just wanted, and what I say to any one of you, don't promise what you can't deliver. Don't promise what you can't deliver. If you tell someone you're going to do this, make sure you can get it done, because these persons are taking that first step and they need that. And that's some of the disadvantage. They go to these places. And then the other disadvantage that I found is that most persons who sit down and start talking about business ventures and collaboration want to know, how much money do you have? The first thing they want to ask you. I say, gracious alive, we hadn't gotten into the discussion about where we're trying to go. Well, you want to know, how much do I have? Wait a minute, I'm not going to reveal that right now because I know where you're going, you see? So let's talk about some of the assets and some of the liabilities, which are some of the strengths and weaknesses that we both bring to the table. And that's one of the greatest things, Mr. Greer, that I found that was a hurdle that we had to get over. But it has been a worthy experience. It's been exciting when you can see 47 to 67 persons in the economic times that we are going through right now, getting in business for themselves. And you got, and the advantage too is that you got to acknowledge people, give them credit for whatever they do. They may make a small step, but it's a giant step to them. And if you can give them some recognition, you never know what they will be. So this person didn't make no 280-some thousand, 300,000 in the last 2 or 3 years without starting out first.
And Kelly, what about the mall, about the foundation? You all have a myriad of projects going on there. What are some of the disadvantages that you see that you're experiencing? You all developing those projects.
Well, first, you know, I've always been told that a business partner is like a marriage. So I'm going to say a collaboration is probably like long-term dating. And you have to get to know that individual and know what they are about and what they want to do. I think the most important thing, first of all, is the disadvantages when you go in excited and wanted to really change the world, so to speak, or change your community, and you don't do the fine print, or like I say, read the fine print, or set up the parameters of understanding. Something basic as a matrix of responsibilities, or an MOU or MOA. And we don't do that sometimes. We go in head first and we land, not on our feet but on our butts, and then we realize then some of the mistakes that we've made. So I think some of the disadvantages is going in unaware of what everyone's role and responsibilities are. And then you find that out on the back end where you say, I did all the work, so I deserve all the money. But once again, it's a collaboration, and if it's on paper that you're gonna split it 50-50, that's a lesson learned. You still split it 50-50, but the next time you understand that I won't do as much work, or it won't be a 50-50, it'll be a 70-30, or whatever percentage that you do. So I think some of the disadvantages are that we don't go in knowing all the rules and regulations of dealing with each other, and then understanding what you're collaborating on. If you're seeking grant funds, to understand what the requirements are gonna be, and sit down and find out who are gonna satisfy those requirements, who's gonna handle the monthly reporting, who's gonna handle your finances, and just making sure that you don't have an overlapping of a role, but you have someone or something in place that can do a check and balance. And I think a lot of times we don't do that. So I would say the number one disadvantage of a collaboration is not the proper preparation or planning and going in without knowing the steps that you need to take to have a successful project. So I always tell people when they want to come and sit down with them all and say, let's do a joint venture or collaboration. And it's the WIFM, what's in it for me? What's in it for you? How do you see doing it? We just recently ended a grant for another nonprofit. They did not have the capacity. So we wrote the grant and said we think this would be a great opportunity for you, but you don't have the financial capacity or the reporting set in place, and we do. So we will be the lead agency. And it's like Mr. Hogan said, it's the egos. This person was used to running their own business, they're used to running their own nonprofit, and they didn't like having to really submit invoices to us. They didn't like having to tell us where they spent every penny. And we were constantly saying, this is government money. These are ERA funds. They have extra rules and regulations. And I know you're accustomed to being your own boss, but we're responsible for everything that happens with this money. They won't come after you, they'll come after us. So you need to give us everything that we ask for. And so just sitting down and knowing if you're going to collaborate on a specific project, if you're going to seek certain funds or answer a certain RFP, know what's going to be required and be able to sit down and select who's going to handle each of those requirements, and let them know that if I'm the lead agency and I'm helping build capacity, then I'm the one that will have the most responsibility. And so you have to play by not my rules, but the rules that are sanctioned under the fund or the RFP that you're trying to answer. So getting an understanding and planning and preparation are probably the biggest disadvantages that we have, because businesses, we just don't do that.